So one of the things you can really do to raise their appreciation of their gifts is to help them become aware of like what it took for that gift to get there. Yeah, so you can like tell a story of where the gift came from, and if you don't know, you can actually like take a couple moments to interview, not formally like, "Hello, Miss
Mhm.
So-and-so, where did you get this gift?" But just be like, "Oh," and really strike the curiosity, right? And be like, "Oh, I wonder where Grandma or let's just do Auntie, right? Like, I wonder where Auntie got this book for you. Why don't we ask her? Hey, Aunt Kelly, where?" um,
Yeah.
yeah, where did you find this book, and what made you choose this book, and so that could be a conversation starter, and then you can go
Mhm.
a little deeper and just be like, wow, did that take you some time to pick the one that you liked, that you thought of, or and then what were you hoping that Susie would get out of this story, like what was it about the story that you were hoping she would really enjoy. And it's just a way to help her tune into the fact that it's like, because in our world it's like this is like so much more like compelling than and kind of can dominate our experience. And you're like, oh, the stuff, and you're just like stuff, and it makes sense, right? They're like, kids are like, ooh, stuff, but you're like, wow, but the stuff, it has a story, like it came from somewhere and it's connected to another human being
Mhm.
who had this like caring intention for you, right? So like the question particularly of like, what were you hoping
Mhm.
Susie would get out of this story, like, why this story? Why
Mhm.
did you pick this one? And usually it's like, it's, especially if it's a relative and there's like a lot of heart, it's like, they really, it's like a gift from the heart. It's not really just the money at the time, right? And they're like, well, I was really hoping that she would like, real, find the character funny. I used to find the character funny when I was a kid. And the next thing you know, it's like, oh,
Yeah.
I feel your heart in this gift now. And I understand, like I can connect with the human behind the gift.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really like that idea because I mean, my sister and my brother both really are very thoughtful about the gifts they give my kids. So they're, kind of like prime candidates to be the ones to ask and give that story to the kids.
Beautiful. So I'm glad someone came to mind right away. And you might even give them a heads up and be like, hey, I'm going to try something that's going to help the kids, like, have a
Mhm.
little more gratitude and a little more awareness. Would you play along with me?
Yeah.
Just to give a little heads up and just be like, yeah, like, I'm trying to help them be aware of like where stuff comes from and how heartfelt, presents really are. It can help because others are like, oh, it's not a big deal. Like they want to like play it down. You're like, no, I actually need you to kind of like,
Get up.
yeah, play it up just a little bit, so like it's interesting for them to like, oh, kind of have
Yeah.
the revelation about it. So there's that, and then I think on the giving side of things, sometimes too, like we will do a lot of, and you might have already done this, and so it's okay, but a lot of times we will like buy presents from the kids for the others without them actually having to do much to make it
Right.
happen.
Yeah.
which it happens because it's just practical, and I get it, and
Mhm.
it's no problem. But then maybe do like really involve them in the wrapping and in the like,
Mhm.
and the story of like what you were thinking when you bought the present and what you think it might mean to the person getting the present. Like make them aware of how much it costs or like the range of money, like so they can start to get a sense of like, oh, like this isn't just a thing we do. Like there's a whole sort of story around it, and I can contribute to it. And then when they give it, they're like, they kind of like have connected with it, and it's like they can feel
Yeah.
the from the heart kind of experience, on the other side of it. hmm
I
Yeah.
like that because, my kids they're at the age now where they understand, that things cost money. So they've gotten there. But we haven't really involved them as much in like selecting the gifts for each other. And I think that they actually have read this, like, I don't love the Bernstein Bears, but they have read this Bernstein Bears book where the brother and the sister like get this amount of money to spend on the other sibling. And they immediately start thinking about how they're going to spend it on themselves or have money left over to buy something else for themselves or something. And it's like a really good insight, I think, into how kids, they really need that extra boost to think about like someone other than themselves. So I like the idea of them at minimum being involved in the wrapping of it and thinking about how their sibling will enjoy the gift.
Yeah.
But probably better to actually have them pick something, like to take them individually to a store and say like, all right, we have, $15. Like, what are we going to buy Susie for Christmas?
Exactly. And you and Dylan could go together and divide and conquer too, like each take,
Yeah.
and then it can be like a cute, funny thing where you try not to check out at the same time so that you don't like,
Yeah.
you can keep it a secret.
Yeah.
Little family adventure
Yeah.
potentially. Yeah. Yeah. And I like the idea of a budget. I think it's such a good idea. Like, and that they have to spend all of it. So they can't scheme to like save the extra dollar or something.
Right.
Yeah. Or like whatever you don't spend, we're going to like put in an envelope and put in the gift so they get the full $15. You know?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. Great. And then the other one would be, sometimes there's a bit of like pacing of the gifts. And this is interesting because it's like, definitely like we get to open them all up and then we have just all this stuff around us. And so
Yeah.
sometimes it can be helpful to like let them swim in the ocean of that for, half a day or something, but then do something around like, okay, like let's put these away and take one thing out at a time to enjoy, or like one or two or three things, and kind of just making it so that it's not just like this mountain of stuff around.
Yeah.
Start to
Because they
lose
get
appreciation.
overwhelmed. Like nothing's special when you have that pile.
Exactly. Right. And so it's fun to see the pile, but then the pile goes away and we like take one thing out at a time, sort of thing. And then of course in the thank you process of like how to show appreciation for the people that gave it to you. I actually recommend not having them sit down and just write a bunch of cards all in a row. I think it's more meaningful that like when over the next few weeks, like as they pull that thing out,
Mm-hmm.
have a little tray or a little basket of something of like some blank cards and
Mm-hmm.
some art supplies, and it can just be really simple. It can just be paper folded in half. It doesn't have to be like
Mm-hmm.
a set or anything. And then you can say, oh, you're using this thing, and it's like, okay, remember, and you can introduce this as a new tradition or ritual. It's like when we're enjoying the thing and we can really feel it from our hearts, like, oh, how much we like this. This is a great time to just like jot a little note. And if they're even not willing to write it themselves, like I think sometimes we get a little hung up on the details, but really if you're like, tell me what you like about it, and you just take some notes for them and then they sign their name and maybe draw a little picture on the front, and the next thing you know, you've got like a really sweet thank you card that's coming from a genuine place of like they got to be like in the moment with the thing itself. So
Yeah.
another
I like
hack.
that idea because I remember so clearly like feeling like, okay, now I've got to sit down and write, 15 thank you notes, and it being like really a chore, especially when you're like 7 or 8. It's just like, oh, it feels like 2 hours of just, kind of penance. I
Yeah,
like
right. It's like, well, I
facing,
guess this is what it takes to get a gift or something like
yeah,
that feeling. Yeah.
feels like more transactional,
Yeah.
so it's nice to have it be more connected to actually experiencing the thing
Mhm.
and writing something in that moment.
And then one thing I do recommend is like as if you were going to write them all at the same time, you can like still do a little list so that you can help them track it.
Mm-hmm.
If they spontaneously like they get through about half of it or maybe 2/3 of it or 3/4, and there's some left over, talk it through, and just be like, well, what do you think about these other folks who gave you things and you just haven't had a chance to use them yet? Do you think they also would like to hear from you? And I would prompt them more in that space of just like, how do you think it would feel for them to get those cards, and just
Mm-hmm.
a little bit more of the emotional awareness rather than a chore. And the simple, like Susie will really relate, like, let's not leave anyone out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big one for her, so she'll
Yeah.
probably connect to that. And then you can wrap up your list by the end of January, is what I usually say. Like, just get it, do have some sort of, we're done, so
Yeah.
that we move on and not have this like chore feeling about it. Yeah. All right. Well, Jenesse, we used our time really well today. I feel like we covered a lot of ground, and yeah, I'm so excited for you to be able to bring these different things to your kids. And
Yeah.
any last thought around like holiday gratitude and
No,
routines?
those are great suggestions. And I mean, I really like the idea of kind of bringing in my like accomplices, my siblings, and having them help me, develop that muscle for my kids. It's really, I think they would really kind of relish that opportunity because both of them hated writing the long thank you notes too. So this is another way to do it, like to inculcate, the idea of gratitude to like help tell the story. That's kind of how people learn best, is through stories. So I really like that idea a lot.
Well, I admire so much your leadership and your curiosity and your willingness and love of learning and all the other strengths that you've shown up with today. It's just you always continue to impress me, and I just so admire you, Jenesse.
Thank you, Vanessa. I hope you have a great holiday too with your family. And
Thank you.
I know that you recently lost your grandma, so I'm really sorry for your loss. And I hope that you have some good healing time during the holidays with all your loved ones around that.
I really appreciate that. Thank you.